Good morning and welcome to Morning Coffee with Brigid. Doesn't look like morning, does it? It's very dark. I'm Brigid Burke. And things will lighten up as we get through the live stream. I'm just enjoying this morning. It is a bit cloudy out. Probably if it wasn't cloudy, it would be brighter. Good morning, Joanne. Like my spooky start to October here. I have my candle here. Now, what's interesting is this candle flame keeps flickering like this. Good morning, Alex. And there's no breeze in here. I had it sitting over on my altar before, and it just kept, yes, exactly, it's October. Good morning, Sam. And, yeah, so this candle flame just keeps, like, doing its thing, and when I have it on my altar, it just keeps going this way. Oh my gosh, candles, yes. This is one of the ones that, that Natalie bought for me. This was a pumpkin sage candle, okay? So it has the dual benefit of sage and pumpkin as well. And good morning, Suda. So yeah, so we are, it's a little dark in here this morning, but I just know that throughout the live stream we will get brighter. So yeah, you can see me and make me out. So that's key. But this is also the reason a lot of times I have to shift, love it, spooky. Yeah, that I have to keep shifting the time later and later. Now today I do have to bring my car in. It's finally the day I called and confirmed I should have a rental car picking me up. I have, got to get that, and I have to drop my car off to get the body work finally done. I called the shop. They're like, yep, we got the parts. It's all good. So, yeah, so that's good. So that's all going to be sorted out today. My sister's picking me up at 10:30, and we're going to go apple picking and maybe pumpkin picking, just to, get into the October vibe, because we're both into the total October vibe thing. It's just that we've been both so crazy busy through September that we didn't really have time to do it. And then she went away to see her children and grandchildren. So we are going to be doing this today. And good morning, Pat. So yeah, so we're having a little bit of spooky vibes. The view out the window, even with it being cloudy out, has been great. Like you've got the sunrise where you've got like streaks of like bright pink and orange and gold, and it's just, but the thing is, if I was to go out like with my phone and try to take a picture, for some reason the iPhone with its super camera likes to turn everything like this flat orange color. So I end up losing all of the color. And it really annoys me because I'm like, yeah, it's just a pain. So in any case, I'm just like, okay, this is a view meant to be looked at and not to run out and photograph at the moment. So, anyway, so I'm here, and yeah, okay. Now, being it is the 1st of October, I think I promised that I was going to do a ghost story a day starting the 1st of October. So, so I am going to do that today. I do have a ghost story for you that I want to tell. One of my favorites, actually. And the theme that I'm going to end up, I went and did some sun salutation yesterday. Oh, did you do the what do they call it? Oh gosh, why am I, it's a Liber, oh God. Hello, I've been Stalin Night for how many years? And the sun salutations. The Hail unto thee, O Ra, and thy rising, that one. I mean, that's the one. Why can't I not remember what it is? I keep wanting to say Reguli, but Reguli is a completely different kind of ritual. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, it's good to get up and do the sun salutations. And actually, I think this week, well, certainly here. I don't know about where everybody else is. Yes, that one. Okay. Yeah, you know what? The reason I stopped doing the sun salutations. No, Liber Resh, that's what that's called. Okay, I knew the word would come to me. Yeah, one of the reasons I don't do Resh is because there was always a midnight salutation, and I'm like, I'm not up at midnight to do salutations. What are you, crazy? So yeah, I never get past Tum. That's the setting one. So in any case, So, so the theme that I'm going to have for today, in addition to our little ghost story, is a theme of, I pulled this rune this morning, which is the rune called Perth. And Perth is a rune of initiation. Because we are moving into a new space, and the way that my guides describe this month, lots of colors peeping. I posted lots of pics. Oh, good. I want to look at your pics, because especially where you live, Joanne, like that's like prime leaf peeping, area. I mean, everybody on this live stream understands about leaf peeping. If people are watching, I know I have some people who watch, who are the UK and don't, or even parts of Europe who go, what's that? Why do people do that? It's basically the colors are so spectacular that people drive around And trust me, because they're in my neighborhoods, and I go out and drive, and they're all driving 10 miles an hour under the speed limit, kind of looking around, and I'm like, and that's great, but, it's also like, I have places I have to go. It's like, can you at least look at the leaves and do the speed limit, or maybe pull over and take some pictures, I take pictures of everything, too, so I don't fault people for that, but it's just kind of, when people just kind of walk around, it's kind of like, if everyone's been to New York City in Times Square, the people who stop and kind of stare up at everything at rush hour, and people are like, get out of the way. So, it's that kind of thing that we experience living out in the country during leaf peeping season. So, but I love leaf peeping. So yes, I have a fun day ahead. It looks like we're playing D&D this afternoon. At least I saw at least the one message, unless other people can't. And then like I said, we're going apple picking, going pumpkin picking today. My sister and I put that off long enough. And that means I get my apple cider, and I get my apple cider donuts. So I'm going to have all of this, we're just going to go full tilt autumn today. It's going to be great. And then, let's see. And then the evening, I watched my friend's live stream. I was trying to watch the previous one, but for some reason, something he did in it made one of those things where, you're not able to watch this in your country. It's times I wish I still had VPN, but anyway. So I emailed him about it, and he's like, I don't know what happened. Something like, it's a shame, something blocked it. So, anyway, whatever, I'll see the next one. Okay, so shall we, do you want me, okay, I'm going to start with the ghost story, I think. Let's do that, because I don't want to get to the end and be rushing through it. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to talk about our little theme of today, what the guys had mentioned. So, and there's a part here that I'm hoping is going to work out, because there's a part of it where I have to play something, so I'm just going to put that at the end. Okay. All right, so this story I'm about to tell you. This is a story of a fellow who's called Larry, and Larry is somebody who he's a real tough guy. Okay. And he's not afraid of anybody. He's not afraid of any person. He's not afraid of any animal. No fear whatsoever of any person. Any person, any creature. He's not afraid of. However, there is one thing that he is afraid of, and that is the dead. He is very, very deeply afraid of ghosts. And, of course, I've known people like Larry. I had a brother-in-law who's kind of like Larry, who was a Navy SEAL, who wasn't afraid of anything. But when all you couldn't even talk about ghosts, it was like, no, I don't want to hear it, So, yeah. So Larry, I know the Larry types. So one evening, Larry's driving his Jeep, and he's driving out in the countryside, and he's, this is taking place, over in Ireland, really. This is kind of on these back roads where, they're these kind of single lane winding country roads. And, and he's driving a Jeep, but the top is, but basically he has an open top, and he's, and now that there's rain, he's got to pull over someplace, because otherwise the whole inside of his car is going to get soaked. He doesn't, have anything he doesn't have the top of them to pull back over it. So he's trying to find a place to just park his car out of the rain a little bit and shelter until the storm passes. So he's driving, and as he's driving down the road, he passes what looks like there's a little house there. It's an empty house, but it would be a sufficient place to shelter for the night. But he says, absolutely not. I am not staying in that house, because the house had a reputation for being haunted, and there was no way he was going to stay in any house with a ghost. So nope, even though that seemed like an option, had a place where he could park his car and anything, no, he just went right by and kept going. So he gets a little farther down the road, and he comes to a church, and he thinks, a church, it's an abandoned church, but he's thinking, okay, it's a house of God, that's a safe place to go, no ghosts, no, safe place to go. And there's sort of like there's a couple little outbuildings and so forth, like a place maybe where they used to bring horses and so forth. So he takes his car and he kind of parks it under there, and he goes inside the church, which still has enough of the roof intact that it's a place to go in that will be dry as the rain's coming down. So he brings himself in, and he sits down in one of the pews, and he sits down to wait. Okay, now it's dark, it's nighttime. But you have the lightning illuminates the sky every now and again, and so eventually there ends up being a little bit of light. So he's sitting here in this church pew, and, as he's sitting there for a while, and his eyes start to kind of adjust to the dark, he starts to realize that he's not alone in this church. He's not the only person in this church. And then a big flash of lightning illuminates the inside, and he realizes that there's all these white figures knelt down in front of the altar as if in prayer. And he's petrified. He says, "Oh my God, I've just walked in on a mass for the dead," because this is a thing that you hear about in folk tales and so forth, that, the dead have masses at midnight, and things like that. And he thought, oh my God, he said, this is the worst possible thing that could happen to him. So he is shaking. He's nearly pissing himself. He's so scared because, he's in a room full. He avoided the haunted house because he was afraid of a ghost. Now he's in a whole room full of them, right? So he thinks, I've got to get out of here. I don't care about the rain. I've just got to get out of here. So, but he's shaking very badly. So he gets out of the pew, and as he's moving, he starts to notice that the people in the pews start to move, like they're shifting and turning, and he thinks, oh no, I'm going to be seen. So he gets out of the pew, and he starts trying to tries to run down the aisle to get out, and he trips and he falls. And at this point, the white figures are now coming out of the aisle, and they stand right in front of him and block his path. And he is so scared. He is so unbelievably scared, and because one of them approaches him, and as it approaches him, it leans over and it speaks to him. And this is what it says, if you can hear it. Did you hear that? Not seeing any reactions, so I don't know if people heard that. Okay, I'm seeing some laughter here. Okay, yeah, so I could say it, but then it would kind of give away the ending there. But it's, yes, you heard it. Basically, he walked into a church full of sheep, and because he couldn't see properly, he thought that they were, all ghosts because he had this thing. Yeah, so in any case, yeah, good. I'm glad everybody heard that. I never know what you can actually hear. So I used to love to tell that story. FDU used to have, at the library, we used to do kind of a ghost story, like Zoom, especially during COVID and stuff. And then we did them in person too. And I used to tell that story. But it is, you kind of build up and you think, there's this guy in this church full of, and he's this big tough guy, and he's basically running scared of a bunch of sheep. So I always thought that was a really great story. And there is a version of that story in this book, More Scary Stories. I have these, I love this set, the Alvin Schwartz set with the original illustrations. They apparently redid this book with illustrations that were less spooky because kids would be too scared, because his illustrations are all, they're just super creepy. But yeah, they're the best stories. And I actually, but actually, I'll tell you, this is not the first place I actually heard this story. Gotta tell your kids. Yeah, it's a good one. And the first time I ever heard this story, I was at Waterloo Village in here in New Jersey, which I don't even know if Waterloo's open anymore. But in any case, they had a storytelling. It was basically a conference for storytellers, and you loved those when I was a kid. Yes, and I still have them. I still have the complete set. I still have the original one I bought, and then I bought some of the reprints when somehow I didn't have, I don't know what happened to my other 2 volumes, but I had all 3 big volumes, and now I have littler versions. But I was like, no, I want to have copies before they go and change it to something, less scary and less offensive artwork. And I'm like, that artwork is the best. And it's artwork by Stephen Gammell's the one who does the artwork on that. It is so cool. I like spooky gothic stuff. And I'm like, and I you know what? When it comes to the idea of scaring children, that's part of the experience of growing up, is to have things is to allow your imagination to kind of be developed in both directions. You're not, the idea, we're only so concerned about traumatizing kids. And you know what? I don't think it has the kind of, I think there's too much of a worry that, regular life is going to traumatize you enough. It's not going to be, stories like this that are going to necessarily traumatize you. So, I just think I don't know. I look through some of the collections that I have from the 1970s and before, ghost stories that I have, things that I grew up with, because I've always been. I mean, I'm not a Halloween freak in the sense of you're not going to see like big skeletons and stuff in front of my house, but I love this kind of season, and I always love the idea of magic and witchcraft and graveyards and things like all the stuff that goes with it is definitely my vibe, and and as a kid, I loved all of that kind of stuff. And I go back and rewatch some of it now, and the things I watched as a kid, and then I go, maybe that wasn't so spooky. But as an adult, it's not so spooky. I love Green Ribbon Story. Oh, I know that story. You read that when you were 10. Yes, that's another good one. I know exactly which one you're talking about. And sometimes it's a green ribbon, sometimes it's a black ribbon, but I know exactly which one you're talking about. And yeah, when I go places, that's what I usually carry, are books of ghost stories. Of course, I've read so many of them now. I think I've read every Victorian story that is in existence. But the first place I heard this one was at a storytellers conference that my friend Nancy was going to, and she said, "Oh, you want to come with me to this for the day?" And I said, "Yeah, sure," because I was a librarian. I wasn't a children's librarian or anything like that, but it was a lot of children's librarians who went. And I went, and there was he pronounced it Shenaki. Sometimes in Ireland it's Shenaki that they pronounce it, but basically that is the Irish word for storyteller. And so the first time I heard this story was from a Shenaki, and you go to Ireland and you listen to an Irish storyteller, they are top of their game on telling stories. I mean, I don't think I could ever tell the story as well as this guy did. He also told another story, the story of Cursed Kate, which is another really good one. And I still remember his performance of it because it was it was just really, really good. He knew how to do all of the parts really well. But he is the first person who told me this story, and he said it was a story of the toss, which is an Irish word, one of the Irish words for ghost. And so it was, it was great, the way that he had told it. And he actually did the sheep sound himself at the end, but it was just, yeah, he had you on the edge of your seat, and then he does that, and the lamb bleeding at the end. it's just really, it really had that kind of, that tension's resolved through comic relief, but anyway, actually kind of talking about kids and spooky stories, and the way in which spooky stories can be a kind of certain things that we go through. They're not really necessarily traumatic, but we can think of them as being ordeals of a type. Certain ordeals will they're almost initiatory in the way that they are. They initiate us into something or into some kind of a new space. Now, there's all kinds of initiations that we have in life. Okay, Joanne's saying, my dad and I would watch Creature Feature and stuff, and they always explained it was make-believe and not real. Godzilla, Universal Monsters, kids today miss out. Harvest Days they have now. Right, everything's supposed to be inoffensive and it's like Samhain, which is the Celtic, the Irish word for Halloween, which really kind of is more. I mean, there's an astronomical Samhain, and then there's actual. We always celebrate on October 31st, sometimes November 1st. But now it's become like, it was All Souls, All Saints Day is what the church turned it into. So it was Hallows Eve is why it's called Halloween. It's the day, the eve of All Hallows, which is the Day of Saints, right? So that's why 31st is called Halloween. Just like there's a before May Day. That's usually called. Usually we go by the German name Walpurgisnacht, but it's Walpurgisnacht, which is actually the night before. It's May Eve. So the adults in my family, as a kid, were big on telling us scary stories about the rural areas close to our home. I loved being scared. Yeah, and my siblings would do that too. If we would walk through the neighborhood and there was like an abandoned house, they'd be like, "Oh, there's a guy who lives there, and you got to watch out because they say he's like, an axe murderer." Like they would tell stories like this. And as a kid, I used to love getting these kinds of stories. And I only wanted to watch scary things. I didn't want to watch, or I shouldn't even say scary. I mean, a lot of times now I think we associate Halloween with like slasher films and, things that are really gory, the madman in the woods kind of urban legends and folk tales and stuff. And I mean, okay, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people who love that kind of stuff. But to me, I prefer a good spooky story. I want to know about, I'm more interested in stories about like the ghost you meet in the woods. I'm more interested in or the, or even idea of cryptids or different things. Something that is Christopher Pike was the best. Okay, yes, I remember Christopher Pike. And of course, a lot of people grew up with like Goosebumps and stuff like that as well, which was oh gosh, what was his name? R.L. Stine. But I didn't. I was pre R.L. Stine. For me, spooky stories, that's why I love Edward Gorey so much, because he illustrated almost all of these books, or many of them. And, but I liked John Bellairs. He was one of my favorites with spooky stories. And he had protagonists who were, of that age, and they would be, they had adults in their life who were either involved in magic or were just very... I don't know, we're very scholarly in some fashion, his different characters. Let's see, Hammer Films, Christopher Lee as Dracula. Yeah, there's a channel that I watch now called the Cobwebs channel. It's this guy, Daniel, he's basically doing movie reviews. But I don't know, there's something about, and it's funny you mentioned Tales of the Crypt, Pat, because that's literally, he covered the original 1972 version I was watching his thing last night. And he was doing a review of the stories, because sometimes you have these horror anthologies where it's a movie, but there's different stories. Hammer and Amicus, yes, and that's what he was talking about too, was the Amicus box sets and stuff like that. So, yeah. And I saw the original Tales from the Crypt. I saw that years ago, where Sir Ralph Richardson played the Crypt Keeper, and Joan Collins was in it, I remember. And yeah, my husband's a horror movie freak. I'm too much of a baby. You know what? There's a lot of horror movies I don't like to watch. The ones that, yes, the Crypt Keeper, yeah, and then there's the later Crypt Keeper, who is the creepy skeleton guy, but the original one was, he looked more like a monk, Sir Ralph Richardson. But I guess the idea was that you didn't want to get the idea that anything supernatural was going on at the beginning of the movie, so you had this kind of regular guy who just kind of, gave off this kind of spooky vibe. So, but the kind of horror I like is a good ghost story, and I like something that shows me... I'm not looking for something gory and violent. I want something that that shows me. I don't even like zombie movies really that much either. I mean, I like something that's more that's more psychological, where something's going on. It's very clear something's going on. Sometimes you're not sure if it's in the person's head or not. Kind of like the Haunting, the original Haunting, it was early 1960s. Like that movie, in spite of the fact that the character of Eleanor is really, really annoying in that movie, I just like it because it literally seems like you're like trapped. It's like you're trapped inside this terrifying house, but then there's also the classic horror for that. Yeah, but there's also the idea that you're not sure whether this is almost an external manifestation or it's somehow feeding off of what the guilt that she has about like leaving her mother, or there's something that she did that the family blames her for. Like it's like I like that kind of a thing where there's kind of a psychological overlap in terms of what's going on, and it's not just a straight up, hey, monsters are invading. Like those are my favorite kind of movies, and I tend to watch them. I liked The Others when it came out, that had what's her name, Nicole Kidman was in that one. And yeah, I like things that have atmosphere like that. I like folk horror. I loved The Wicker Man. The Wicker Man was great. That's not really a ghost story, but I love The Wicker Man. So there's all these things, and the idea is that it kind of brings you to a certain place. So when we talk about initiation, we're talking about being an in-between space, right? The Others gave me a new perspective on the afterlife. Yeah, that one was interesting, and I think that one takes place on, was it the Isle of Jersey? I think it was that one. You're a Michael Myers Halloween fan, though. Yeah, a lot of people like the Halloween franchise. I don't, personally, because I don't like the idea. I'm not, like I said, I'm not into the serial killer stuff, but I know a lot of people who are. And that's fine. And some people like all of the, zombies rising from the grave movies, like Evil Dead and stuff like that. And I'm like, I guess that's not what I associate with Halloween. Even though a lot of people do, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, stuff like that. That's not, to me, that's not the vibe. I want the vibe. I want the actual old school, like the numinous to me is spooky in and of itself. The idea of encountering something that's other is in and of itself is a, that is an initiation in and of itself. If you encounter something truly numinous, that'll scare the pants off of you. And that's what I try to tell people. Like, experiences, it's not, numinous is not looking at a beautiful sunset and going, wow. Numinous is like, you encounter something truly other, and it like rocks you to your core. That's why they talk about the difference between the sacred and the profane. Now, I mean, it's almost like this is something, you're in a territory where you don't belong. Now, when you're in a liminal space, when you're moving, and there's a lot about liminal spaces now, being in empty spaces or being in between, in these different places, and the kind of the terror of that. Liminality happens during initiations. If anybody has undergone, I don't know if anybody here has ever, well, we've all undergone certain types of initiations, okay? And some of them are very, very weak. Like if you grew up in a Christian family, like if you were baptized, and then if you had to take, if you were in Catholic school, you would make communion, your Eucharist, and then you would make confirmation. Like all of those are kind of weak rituals. They're weak because they don't have any kind of psychological impact on you. They're not an ordeal. They're just an excuse to like put a dress on and then have a party. Bar mitzvahs can be like that. I mean, bar mitzvahs, and I guess in bat mitzvahs, I guess you have to learn. You have to actually recite Hebrew passages. So I guess there's that. And then in Buddhist. And and she's saying, and Joanne's saying Gothic horror is your preference. Yes, I agree. I mean, I like Gothic horror a lot too. And you were saying, and there's Buddhist. There's certainly Buddhist initiations, and yeah, I know you've taken some of those. I've taken certain groups. I've taken like OTO initiations and stuff like that with the Swami. Yeah, and I've taken initiations as well in that area. So. Not in Buddhist initiations, but more on the Hindu side. And the initiation transforms you. That's the idea, is that you're in this state where you are no longer the person you were, and you're becoming something else. Now, the reason I bring it up at this point in time, I mean, we're talking about horror movies and kind of being in these in-between spaces, or, just scary things, the scariness of not knowing where you're going to be or where you're going to go. But at the same time, you have the idea. The idea is when you walk into an initiation, you don't know what you're walking into. There's generally some kind of an ordeal, okay, that you're going through. And again, when you take these initiations, you're not allowed to say, they're secret too. And they're not secret because there's something terrible going on. They're secret because you don't want the spoilers. You can't see. It's kind of like you can't be prepared for everything that you're going to walk into. And this month, with all the changes we were talking about yesterday, is a kind of initiation. That's the way my guides have described it. You're kind of being initiated, but when you get through, you're going to be on the other side. Okay? Can initiations be without ritual? Like, can they organically happen? I feel like I've had them, but self-directed. Yes, and actually, that's what I was going to mention. There are a lot of initiations that do happen organically. Things that just happen to us in life that shift us to, because we don't always have adequate life cycle rituals in society. I think that's why some people do take occult initiations, because they want to have some kind of a thing. What was it? The Pope posted something the other day, which I still want to respond to, where he was talking about all these people who became like occultists and Satanists and all this stuff in the world. And I'm like, and I want to respond to him. I'm like, yeah, well, if the Catholic Church actually took any of these transformational things seriously, maybe people might stay. Just a thought. Thank you for asking that. Yes, and actually, some of my first initiations were natural ones. When I first came into witchcraft, there was nobody around me doing witchcraft. I had to self-initiate, right? But then I had many, many natural initiations after that. There were things that happened. When I went to Ireland, when I went up to Awanmaka on St. John's Eve, I had a natural initiation into something. It was something that happened, and again, there's aspects of it that I can't talk about. But it was like a natural Morrigan initiation into something, and there was, and there, like I said, there are things. You come out of it a different person at the end. Okay, you're in a different place. Exactly same. Self-initiated, then more to come in experience. Right, because a group is not always available to you. Think about what Joanne had said about the one shaman, Puma, I guess who was initiated because he was struck by lightning, or that is something that initiates you. It's something that transforms you. And I feel like that's what's happening in this space. Like the things that we are going through now naturally are a kind of an initiation. Catholic transformation only for men and elite. Well, in theory, okay, all of the sacraments that you make in the Catholic Church are supposed to be initiations, but they're not, because they're just weak. They're just, and a lot of the major religions, they've just become that, because again, we don't want to traumatize people. But the thing is that the idea is that shake-up, it's meant to shake you out of the person that you were into this new being, because otherwise we can say, I don't want to change. I kind of want to stay where I'm at. But you can't stay where you're at forever. You can't do that. You have to be, we are constantly growing, and growing, there's growing pains. There's something that's to it, that once we've gone through it, we come through to the other side. You pass through the realm of the unknown. You cross the dark forest to get to the to the clearing on the other side. This is part of what we do, and that seems to be the theme of this month. So when we're all very tense about, there's all these very negative aspects, and and these omens, and I asked them, I said, are these omens? Are these good omens? And they're like, no, they're not good omens. They're like, but you don't need to worry about it. It's not that. It's really only a bad omen for people who are determined not to go through the process. And like I said, like everybody certainly who's on live right now is somebody who's definitely people who are willing to go through the process. So, or have already been doing the work. People who have just really stuck their head in the sands and refuse to do the work are going to be in for probably big surprises this month. But, and again, I'm not trying to criticize those people, but, I understand that, sometimes we just, even especially if we've been through a lot of stuff, we might be like, no, I don't want to change anything else right now. But sometimes it's just that we've only transformed maybe 3/4 of the way, and we got to go the rest of the way. There's that kind of a thing that goes on. So yeah, so we are in this state. What was that book? Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's yeah. There's a lot of good. I'm sure we'll be talking about those all throughout the month. All of our favorites here. I'm going to do a quick reading on this month's initiation, and I'm going to use Cartouche. I know Cartouche is liked by some people. I know Pat has managed to acquire, I think you said 2 Cartouche decks, and I'm like, whoa, that's impressive. The book Good Omens, got it, okay. I'm just talking about omens more generally, but it's, but yes. Gifts are already manifesting. Oh, that's good to hear. And I know I talk to Pat like I think it's going to be Thursday this week we'll be talking, so I'm sure I'll catch up on what some of that is. But it's, I know, it's, but the omens this month, they're saying, it's not like when you see comets and things like that, or you have eclipses, they're not considered to be good omens, okay? we're not going to, sugarcoat it, but at the same time, it's an omen of change, of the way things are is not going to hold. And for people who are insistent, or powers that be or whatever, who are insistent on keeping things that way, it's just not going to hold. And as we've pointed out, everything is moving towards this idea of being community supportive, of being more towards what we call the feminine. Because I said the feminine is more about the collective and less about the individual. It's going to be more about what we do for each other rather than just what we can grab for ourselves, which is kind of what the Capricorn era turned into. That doesn't necessarily have to be the outcome of Capricorn. Capricorn's about persistence and hard work and putting, the elbow grease into something. So it's not the Capricorn, the first card's the initiation card. It's 2 times the fun. I was afraid of not receiving them. Yes. Yeah, and I'm glad that you, so you ended up ordering too. Yeah, because they're hard to get. Cartouche is hard to get, so, Pat, but as you know, I have 3 decks, and one of them, this is the one that's in the best shape. Okay, our first card is Initiation. Pyramid. I couldn't have made this up. I said Cartouche is the one I resonate with the best. That's why I use it, even though probably Tarot is a little more descriptive. It has court cards. It has things that can talk about people and situations. You can get that with this deck too, but it's a little more, you have to rely a little bit more on your instinct. Spot on, yeah. So we're talking about initiation here, and this kind of idea of passing through fire, okay? Fire, I don't want to think about this as a purging. Well, that's how cards work, though. I mean, and this is kind of what I mean. When we ask a particular question, and then the person says, I have a question about money, and then the first card is like a pentacle card. Like, you know what I mean? It's like the idea that that this is just kind of a random thing, This is about alchemizing. Okay, this is, to me, I like to look at fire not as purging, which is one way that Marie Hope, who designed these cards, she'll talk about it as a purge, but I'm like, it's not really so much a purge as it is a alchemizing. It's basically burning up whatever is toxic or what isn't necessary, and then kind of transforming it into the thing that it needs to be. Yeah, exactly. And so it's like passing through the fire. And that's what an ordeal is. An initiation is, and not necessarily literally passing through fire. I mean, I know people have initiations like walking on coals and stuff, but I mean, we're not talking about that. We're talking about figuratively passing through fire. And there could be world events that are going to be a kind of passing through fire too. The factor to be considered is scarab. Scarab indicates that things are changing. There is a change, and it is a change that is being imposed by the universe. So it's not like we can opt in or out of it. It's happening. There's changes that are happening, big changes. And like I said, there's different prophecies about them. There's some of them, and again, like any ordeal, we don't know where they're going. We don't exactly know what they're going to mean to our lives specifically and what it's going to mean to the people around us. But there's definitely some kind of a change that's going on. Our advice card here is Thoth. And Thoth is a card of, well, it's karmic. There's consequences for actions, okay, that come to the fore. But Thoth also is about karmic rewards. So it's about, because a lot of what I saw this morning was about being rewarded for things. So people who have put the work in, who have reflected, who have taken this, this Pluto and Capricorn time to really look at the lessons of that and to adjust course, or to really start working on, like I said, a lot of people here are working on heart opening and working towards thinking more about the community or thinking about things differently. All of that kind of thing is rewarded with Thoth, okay? So it's saying when you've put the work in, because this is also about what I'll call, I'm using the phrase divine timing somewhat advisedly, because I don't always believe in divine timing. But Thoth definitely has to do with, it has to this idea of that things are, this is happening at the right time. There is a shift that is timely. We've talked about certain aeons that are ending and new ones that are beginning. And we're kind of at the beginning of a very big change. So this is a big initiation for everybody. And the question is, like I said, if you've been doing the work, then you have as much preparation as you're going to potentially have to pass through it. And the outcome is the Ankh. And the Ankh is wonderful because this is the key of life. This is about joy, really. I mean, Ankh is about living the life that you are passionate about, okay? And living in a space of love, because Ankh has a lot to do in this deck with love. Sometimes it has to do with romantic love or sexual love, but I think this has more to do with just a passion for life, just a feeling of enjoying being alive, saying, wow, I love waking up and I enjoy what's around me every day. I appreciate everything. I appreciate, the beautiful view and a cup of coffee and being secure and just being able to do the things that you want to do. Like, in other words, it's saying, you're passing through this fire, and as you come out of it on the other side, there's this new beginning. And again, it's going to be, karmic debts paid, karmic rewards reaped, and and that seems to be the message here about what's going to be going on. So let's quickly, because I do have to kind of finish on time today, because I have, like I said, I got to bring my car in at 9 and meet the car rental people. Let's see. Okay, let's see what we've got here. Yeah, I mean, we're starting with the Ten of Pentacles, the We Are the World card, okay? This is about community. This is about how we how we focus, how we have more empathy, how we are more open to each other, and how we help each other. And the inner feeling of which we are unaware is sharing, okay? We have this Queen of Wands card. This is the card of sharing, so having enough abundance to share with others. And I was doing a Morrigan reading this morning, and I did see the Nine of Pentacles in the Druidcraft deck, which is actually quite similar to this in its inflection. It's it's basically having enough to, this is about us sharing our bounty with others, and in sharing, you also receive. The external feeling of which we are aware is sorrow, and of course, the Nine of Swords is a card of, all the bad things that we recognize, all the things that are quote unquote wrong with the world, which there's always going to be things wrong with the world. I mean, and that's kind of the point. There's always things that are going to be wrong with the world. That shouldn't stop you from sharing. So yeah, you have this aloneness. This is about, to me, again, the hermit is about reflection, about finding that inner light, about finding one's path through your own inner illumination. Okay, making your way through that dark forest. And ultimately, we have the Creator card. We have the King of Wands. Okay, so we got both the King and the Queen of Wands here. And the King of Wands, yeah, this is about you operating from this space, right? Operating from the heart space, operating from that, and being able to create and do things in the world that are, it doesn't matter whether they have what we might think of as a meaning in some kind of capitalistic way. It doesn't matter. We are just we are at the point of being creators and of being creative. And again, we try to put creativity in a box and say, oh, well, it just has to do with writing art, music. All of those things are creative, and maybe some of those are things that we want to do, but we can be creative in other ways as well. It doesn't just have to be that. It can just be coming up with a new idea or a new way of doing things. It doesn't have to always be creative in the sense of, making art. Although art, as I've mentioned, the symbols of art and the way in which we use it deal with that sense of priming that we have. That they allow us to, the way that we confront art can allow us to break cycles of thinking. And it has to happen through image. It's not just me sitting here talking at you about it is not going to be sufficient. It's got to be something that has an impact on the psyche. I think, Sam, that's probably why you and I have a hard time watching certain TV shows and stuff, or watching movies, because they have an impact on your psyche. And a lot of times, if we don't want certain things destabilized, it's like, no, I'd rather manage this my own way, because sometimes it can destabilize us in a way that we don't find useful. Okay, hang on a minute. Okay, so literally you were just thinking that. Yep. Yeah, great minds think alike, right? So yeah, I pulled the Douglas Fir card. That was another one that came up. And our card is resolution. And the trigger statement is the past haunts me, okay? There we go, the past, all the things, all the bad stuff, all the things that happened, or things maybe we could have done differently or feel we should have done differently. The true statement is, in this moment, I am free. Let yourself be the one to heal the wounds passed down from your ancestors. The release and growth begins with you. Twin Peaks, Douglas Firs. Yeah, interesting. Oh yeah, good point. But yeah, this is about curing ancestral wounds. And it's interesting how we've talked about the eclipses being about ancestry, So this is literally about clearing away the past. Remember what we talked about when I was at Sleepy Hollow Cemetery with my friend, and she's like, it's like there's nobody here. It's almost like the past is being cleared out. And now we're making way for something that's new. So really interesting how all of this kind of stuff is coming together. But that was the message of the morning. At the place, so I'll have to call them back. But anyway, yes, there's a clearing out that's going on, and so we're in this space of we're in this space that's going to be totally new. And when you're on the threshold of something, it's like you're not the person you were before, but you're also not the person who is, you still don't know who you are yet. So at the end of this, we should all have a much better idea of who we are and where we're going. So you're welcome. Yep, we're at quarter of. I do need to go, so I'm going to check and see what I think they're just calling to confirm that they're picking me up. So I will see all of you tomorrow morning. And yeah, tomorrow the school opens. So yay, everybody. Joanna, I talked to her. She's all set for tomorrow evening. Everybody's been emailed all the stuff. And yeah, so very excited to get going. Very good start to the month. You are welcome. And and we'll see what ghost story we have for tomorrow too. So everybody, oh, thank you. Yeah. So we'll see what we do with it and what we end up doing with recordings and stuff too. We might be able to make those available to people, for a fee that's not quite the same as the auditing fee. So, yeah. See you guys tomorrow. Take care. Have a great day. Check spams. Oh, check spams in case you didn't get it. Yeah. Okay. Cool.